When a fire broke out, animals formed a wall to stop it. It began with smoke thin, rising tendrils curling through the treetops like a warning from the sky itself. The jungle, alive with its eternal hum, fell strangely quiet. Birds that moments before had painted the air with their melodies fell silent, their vibrant chirps replaced by an eerie stillness. A hush fell over the emerald expanse, as if the very jungle was holding its breath. Something ancient stirred, something the modern world would call impossible. The fire started by a lightning strike on the western edge of the forest. It wasn't the kind of fire that the jungle knew, the kind that played an essential role in its life cycle. This one was different. It spread quickly, fanned by an angry wind that howled through the trees. Flames licked hungrily at the parched underbrush, sending up thick black smoke that blotted out the sun. Amidst this chaos, an instinct so old it predated language kicked in. The animals did not flee into the suffocating smoke or scatter into the unburnt parts of the forest. They gathered. At first, it was a trickle, a few pairs of deer, a family of tapirs, a troop of monkeys. It's cute, all instinctively knowing the gravity of the situation. But soon it became a steady stream, then a flood. As if choreographed by an unseen hand, they assembled in front of the firebreak. It's an area that had been scorched bare by previous fires and was thus more resistant to the current flames. There, in the midst of destruction, order began to emerge. At the head of the line, the largest animals took their places. Elephants moved forward, their tusks gleaming like polished ivory in the firelight. They stood shoulder to shoulder, creating a solid wall of flesh and bone. Their deep rumble echoed across the ravaged landscape, a sound that spoke of age-old wisdom and profound understanding. Behind them, the water buffalo arrived in thundering herds. With massive horns lowered, they charged into the inferno, kicking up clouds of ash and debris. They plunged into the shallows of a nearby stream, and with a flick of their powerful tails, sent arcs of water flying through the air, each drop exploding into a tiny white puff as it hit the red-hot ground. Then came the monkeys, hundreds strong, screaming as they swung from tree to tree. They leapfrogged over fallen branches, creating a living bridge between the burning west and the safety of the eastern forest. Each jump, a testament to their agility, each leap pushing back the fiery tide. These weren't just animals performing tricks, or members of a community coming together to protect their home. And as the night wore on, other creatures joined the ranks, driven by the same instinct for survival that had guided our own ancestors eons ago. Smaller animals flowed behind the larger ones, filling in the gaps, strengthening the wall. Deer, with their gentle eyes and nimble forms, tapirs with their prehensile noses and sturdy bodies. And even the shyest of creatures emerged from their hiding holes, uniting in the face of a common foe. Among these unlikely heroes, two stood out, creatures whose roles in such a drama were unexpected. Snakes, those silent, often feared predators, slithered forward, their scales catching the firelight as they moved. They navigated the burning undergrowth with ease, their forked tongues tasting the air, guiding the smaller animals away from danger. Their presence, usually heralded by fear, was now a beacon of calm in the chaos. But it was the insects that truly astounded. As if summoned by an invisible piper, they descended upon the fire in a darkening cloud. Termites, ants, beetles, and winged insects of all shapes and sizes converged on the blaze. Their tiny jaws working in unison, they began to devour the burning debris, extinguishing flames with their own bodies.
Wow.
They were a sea of black against the orange backdrop, a testament to the power of unity even in the smallest of creatures. All around the assembled animals, the battle raged. Branches crashed to the ground, sending sparks flying like fallen stars. The heat was intense enough to broil the flesh off a carcass if it had been close enough. Smoke stung the eyes and made breathing difficult. Yet the animals held their ground. They were not just fighting a fire, they were fighting for life. And in their struggle, something extraordinary was born. Amidst the smoke and flames, a rhythm began to emerge. The elephants stamped their feet, the buffaloes bellowed, the monkeys screeched, and the insects hummed. Their sounds so different, yet so harmonious, wove together into a tapestry of sound that reverberated through the forest. It was a song of courage, of unity, of defiance against the encroaching darkness. On a high ridge overlooking the spectacle, a lone figure sat cross-legged. His name was Bolo, a tribal elder who had lived most of his 78 years in voluntary exile in the heart of the jungle. He had seen many wonders during his long life, but this was something else. In his weathered hands he held a bamboo flute, its surface worn smooth by years of use. He raised it to his lips, and as if in response to the animal's chorus, he began to play. His music soared, dipped, and swirled, echoing the rhythm of the forest. It was an ancient melody, one that spoke of resilience, of hope, and of the indomitable spirit of life. It was a song he had heard once before, long ago, a song that spoke of a time when humans and animals understood each other better. When the boundaries between species were more blurred and cooperation was the norm. He remembered the stories his grandmother had told him, stories of a time when animals were not just part of the ecosystem, but partners in survival, guides, and teachers. Stories of the circle of breath, a mythical alliance between all living things in the jungle, an alliance that was invoked only when the forest was in peril. Could it be that the legend was coming to life before his very eyes? The thought both terrified and exhilarated him. The forest itself seemed to be responding to the music, the trees swaying as if in time with the beat. The animals, sensing the connection, turned their heads toward the source of the melody, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. Then, as if guided by an invisible hand, they began to move forward, slowly at first, then with increasing determination. They formed a circle, a semicircle, really, with the elephants in the front line, the buffaloes behind them, the monkeys on the trees, and the snakes slithering along the ground. The insects formed a living arch over the heads of the larger animals, their wings beating in unison, creating a protective dome over the entire assembly. Balo watched, mesmerized, as the animals completed their silent procession. He saw the determination in the elephants' eyes, the steely gaze of the snakes, the unwavering focus of the buffaloes, and the sheer audacity of the monkeys. It was as if the jungle itself was taking a stand, using every weapon at its disposal to fight the destructive forces threatening to engulf it. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, the fire reached the edge of the wall of animals. Flames licked up toward the elephants, singeing their hanging ears and trunks. Sparks rained down, setting the undergrowth ablaze, but the animals did not flinch. They held their ground, their united breaths forming a living shield against the oncoming fire. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, and the wind, which had been the fire's ally, began to die down. Slowly, the fire lost its intensity. It sputtered, hissed, and finally died out, leaving behind smoldering ashes and a heavy silence. When the smoke cleared, the assembled animals looked at each other, their breaths mingling in the crisp morning air. The damage was extensive, but not catastrophic. Some trees were charred, some animals were singed, but the wall had held. The core of the forest, the source of its life, the great mother tree, was unharmed. One by one, the animals drifted away, returning to their daily routines, to their burrows, nests, and watering holes. The circle of breath, it seemed, had worked. The forest, for now, was safe. In the days that followed, scientists and researchers descended upon the forest, cameras, satellites, and scanners in hand. They searched for answers, for a scientific explanation for what had happened. But the truth is that what they were witnessing was not a simple animal response to a natural disaster. It was a testament to the forgotten wisdom of the natural world, a wisdom that humans, with all their knowledge and technology, had long forgotten. They found no evidence of an organized retreat, no signs of a panicked stampede, and certainly no indication of a planned defense. What they did find was a landscape that bore witness to the power of collective action, a power that transcended species, instinct, and memory. The story of the circle of breath, once relegated to the realm of myth and legend, was now a stark reality, a reminder that the natural world operates on principles that are far more complex and profound than human minds can comprehend. The animals of the forest had not just saved themselves, they had saved a way of life. If this story moved you as deeply as it moved us, subscribe, like, and comment on our channel, The Forgotten Path, where every tale is a step deeper into the wisdom nature still holds. Because sometimes the greatest wisdom is found not in our screens or textbooks, but in the rustling leaves and babbling brooks of the wild places that still remain.